What's going on, you guys? So, something happened at work today that made me want to make this video for you guys today. And it really is centered around faith in the workplace. Now, I shared with you guys my goals for the year for 2025. And one of the most important goals for me was to be more intentional about spending more time with God and rebuilding that connection with Him and rebuilding that connection and strengthening that connection with my religion and my faith. Now, in the hospital, I'm walking around. I usually wear like a chain and it has like a cross on it. And a lot of different patients, a lot of different people will comment on it, like, oh, that's a cool chain, that's a nice chain, yada, yada, yada. But this patient, in fact, actually asked me, like, oh, that's a cool chain. Like, are you Christian? And in the moment, I actually hesitated. And thinking back now, I was wondering, why did I actually hesitate in that moment? I've been thinking that like kind of sporadically throughout the day, and getting back home and kind of ruminating on it a little bit more, I realized that I felt that I was almost like a hypocrite to say yes in that moment. Of yes, I was born into Christianity. Yes, I have gone to church almost every weekend growing up as a youngling. But since getting into my adult life and in college and in med school and in residency, I didn't actually practice what I preached or practice what I said I was. I wasn't going and being active and being proactive in terms of building this connection with Him, with Christ to say, and actually taking an active participation into building my faith. So that was a struggle for me to kind of realize that I was struggling with that, if that makes sense. But it wasn't super surprising because this was something that I actually was trying to be intentional about this year, about rebuilding my connection with Him, rebuilding my faith, and actually being a little bit more proactive and active into building my faith. So, despite all that and all that thinking and ruminating that I was having throughout the day, when I actually said yes, we had a nice little conversation between the both of us. He was also Christian as well. And he shared with me his struggles that he had in the faith, his struggles that he had throughout his entire life. And while he was saying all that, I was realizing that, like, wow, this guy have had so much struggle with his faith, but he's being so open with it with me. Like, why is that? And I realized that not everybody that is a Christian is going to be perfect. You know what I mean? Like, we're human, we're not perfect. And honestly, that's okay. It's a lifelong journey to be building this connection with Him. It's not something that you can just master and then put away. It's something that's going to take time for me. And I never really thought that I was going to rebuild my entire faith this year, but today I came to the conclusion that I'm okay with however long this takes me to rebuild this connection with Him. Regardless, I wanted to talk about this video specifically because I've had many patients that I've known are Christian in the hospital, but I've never actually talked about it with them. One, I didn't know if it was okay. Two, I didn't know if that was like the professional thing to do. And three, I just didn't feel comfortable talking about faith at that time because I wasn't living that lifestyle. But today, what I did when I actually saw that patient that we were just speaking about, I actually initiated a prayer with him. He cried after we did that. And I never really thought that that was going to be such a powerful experience for me. Seeing him tearing up after, and, it was I felt like it was a very basic prayer, but after holding his hand, having that prayer with him, I felt this calling to want to do more. And it's weird for me to say that I want to be more open about my faith with people when I don't feel that I have been the strongest in my faith. And I feel that, I'm a work in progress, but everybody's a work in progress. Everybody's working on their faith. Everybody is trying to realize what they are lacking. And for me, I'm lacking that connection with them. And yes, I'm taking the steps, but it's going to be a lifelong process. But that shouldn't inhibit me from being able to speak with these patients about this topic. So, one thing that I'm going to be doing moving forward is I'm going to be initiating prayers with patients that I know are of the faith, that I know are struggling in the hospital, because being in the hospital is not a fun experience. If you have seen what I've seen these last couple of years, patients get poked and prodded and nagged, and there's always people bugging them, and they don't get to see their family often, especially in the COVID times when they're in isolation rooms. Man, don't even get me started. But these patients can oftentimes develop depression. They can develop irritation. They can develop all sorts of things while here in the hospital. Because imagine this, you being taken care out of your comfy, cozy, warm environment at home, comfortable, you know what to expect day to day, into an environment where you don't know what's going to happen today. You don't know what bad news you're going to hear. You don't know if you're going to be poked for some blood or poked for some more blood or whatever. And you can only imagine how that would be for a few days. I've been hospitalized before, and I've maybe like 2 to 3 days. But some of these patients are there for a week. Some of them are there for a month. Some of them are there for months. I've seen people like there for almost half a year. And you can imagine being in an environment like that and feeling like almost all hope is lost. And one thing that I want to share is that hope is never lost when you are following Christ. And hope is not lost for me. You know, I've oftentimes felt, is it too late for me to rebuild this connection with God? Is it too late for me? Like, am I lost? Is he looking down on me, judging me, saying like, "Oh, you want to come back?" Um, but I feel that that's not the truth. And moving forward, these patients are going through struggles that you can't even imagine. And, we have a palliative care services, and that's something that I want to go into this future that I'm going to be training for. And there is a spiritual section of palliative care. And if that's something that's being addressed in the hospital, why can't I, as a primary care doctor or the hospitalist or whatever in the hospital, why can't I initiate that process and have that conversation with them and pray with the patients? I'm not saying that I'm going to be going there trying to convert every patient. That's not my intention. It's having a prayer with them, letting them know things are going to be okay. And if they're not going to be okay, then at least they have Christ there for them as well. I felt like this was an important topic for me and an important realization and learning point for me. Let me know if you guys have gone through something like this before. Comment in the section down below. This is still a learning process for me for building this connection with God. And I'm excited for it. I'm scared because it's something that I've neglected for so long in my life, but I feel that it is better late than never. And I'm glad that I'm actually taking the steps to initiate this process and get back to him. So I will see you guys later. We'll talk about this in the future again, about maybe from a different perspective, but let me know what you guys think. Peace. Have a nice day.